The baseball offseason is upon us, and you know what that means. Some pitcher is about to get obscenely rich. Paying elite pitchers big-time money can often be a risk, and basically every MLB team has done it at this point. So today, I'll be ranking every team's most expensive pitcher contract in their franchise history. Last year, we did this with expensive contract overall, and what I learned from the video is that basically every team's expensive contract is a position player, so we have an entire brand new list here just with pitchers. Let's not waste any time and dive right in. But before we kick off the video, I of course have to shout out Nike, who's been an affiliate with me for a couple months now. Baseball might be buttoned up, but it's not too late to rep your team and celebrate another season in the books. So go check out the affiliate link down below to shop amazing Nike gear right now. We'll start today's list with one of the more curious picks on it. That would be Homer Bailey's contract with the Reds for 6 years and $105 million. You probably remember him best for throwing 2 no-hitters in the span of 1 year. That actually culminated in a great 2013 season for him. He set career best with 199 strikeouts, a 3.49 ERA, and 209 innings pitched, which earned him this contract extension. The thing is, basically no part of this contract was good for either side. Bailey threw significantly less innings in the first year of the deal in 2014, then he tore his UCL and needed Tommy John surgery in the year that followed. Later on, after recovering, he would deal with knee inflammation, culminating in a horrible 2018 season where he went 1-14 with an ERA over 6. Simply put, Bailey was never the same pitcher after the year where he tossed 2 no-hitters, and it's a shame because he has one of the greatest pitcher names in the history of the game. Homer Bailey's contract with the Reds is going to go in my bottom tier labeled dog because dog. Homer Bailey's your most expensive pitcher ever? Do better, Reds. Up next is Felix Hernandez's 7-year contract worth $175 million with the Seattle Mariners, and this one requires a much more in-depth discussion. We obviously know about the greatness of King Felix at this point. He debuted at 19 years old and took the league by storm. After finishing runner-up for Cy Young in 2009 and then winning the award in 2010, the Mariners actually bought out his arbitration years and gave him a 5-year, $78 million extension, which turned out to be a fantastic contract. That's just not the contract we're talking about in this instance, though. In 2012, after a bit of a hiccup the year prior, Felix returned to Cy Young form. He threw a perfect game, had a 5-WAR season and an ERA just around 3. And this earned him the subsequent extension that we'll be talking about today, the 7-year deal worth $175 million. It's interesting because the first year of this contract was one of the best of Felix's entire career. He led the American League in ERA, games started, whip, and hit per 9 rate, and was a controversial second place finisher to Corey Kluber that year. But after 2015, Felix would deal with injuries for the rest of his career. And by 2018, he was fully a negative asset to the Mariners team. Felix Hernandez is basically the entire reason I created the complicated legacies tier at number 3. Because Felix absolutely deserved the money. He took lesser money to stay with the Seattle Mariners, and 2 of those years were among the best in the league. It's just the old age hit Felix a lot harder than anybody probably expected, and it complicates the legacy of his contract as a whole because it did hamper the Mariners in the late 2010s. I have no doubt that the Mariners would sign him again given the circumstances, but it's hard to sell at anything higher than the 3rd tier for me. Up next is Mike Hampton's 8-year, $121 million deal with the Colorado Rockies, and this one is a doozy. A year after winning NLCS MVP with the New York Mets, Hampton was traded to the Rockies and subsequently extended. Infamously, he didn't want to stay in New York because he didn't want his kids going to school in that state, so instead, they were going to school in Denver. And while Hampton could absolutely rake for a pitcher, he struggled mightily in Coors Field, which makes perfect sense. He had an ERA over 5 in his first season and then an ERA over 6 in his second season. And just 2 years into this 8-year contract, Hampton was already flipped from the Colorado Rockies. He was first sent to the Marlins via trade, then to the Braves via trade. Hampton had some bounce-back seasons in the back half of his career, but in terms of his Rockies tenure, it was nothing short of a disaster. Unsurprisingly, this one's going to go in our bottom tier because how could it not? Speaking of absolute disaster classes, up next is the Miami Marlins, who gave Wei-Yin Chen a 5-year, $80 million contract. Chen was a stalwart in the Orioles rotations of the early 2010s, and he definitely earned this contract with some solid seasons. Chen became the 2nd Taiwanese pitcher ever to get an opening day start, joining Chen-Ming Wong, but that was pretty much the only highlight of his Marlins tenure. That and of course being on the MLB The Show cover that year in Taiwan, of course. Everyone knew that. Chen dealt with injuries in year 1 and had a below league average ERA for the first time in his career. A partial UCL tear basically spelled doomsday for Chen's contract, especially when they decided to not get surgery for it and simply try and rehab it. Eventually, Chen was moved to the bullpen in 2019 and things only got worse, and in 2020 2020, he was eventually DFA'd. The craziest part of all that makes this maybe the worst contract on the list is that the Marlins released Chen before the pandemic officially hit in 2020, and because the pandemic hit, players got their salaries prorated, which means everyone got paid a lot less that year, except for Wei-Yin Chen, who was released before this happened, so he still got paid a full $22 million to not pitch for the Marlins in 2020. Absolutely nuts. Not a hot take at all. This one's also going in our bottom tier. Let's cleanse our palate by talking about one of the best contracts on this list, that being Jon Lester's 6-year, $155 million contract with the Chicago Cubs. After years dominating October baseball with the Boston Red Sox, Jon Lester was traded in 2014 to the Oakland A's. After a year where he pitched for 2 different teams but finished 4th in Cy Young voting, Lester was due for a big payday, and that's exactly what he got. And it might be weird to think about, but I think his 2016 season is the best of his career. A 2.44 ERA, just a shade under 200 strikeouts, and an ERA that was 71% better than league average. But even better than that was his 2016 postseason run, where he threw 35 2/3 innings with an ERA of 2 and 30 strikeouts to 6 walks. The Cubs, of course, broke the curse thanks to his help, and Lester had some solid years after this 2016 season as well. This will rightfully be our first entry into the top tier. I think Lester was worth every penny and more for the Chicago Cubs, even without the World Series. Now let's head over to the south side of Chicago and talk about John Danks, who got a 5-year, $65 million deal with the Chicago White Sox. Now, real ball knowers out there know that John Danks was incredibly underrated in his career with the White Sox. You might remember his 8-inning shutout 2-hit masterclass in Game 163 back in 2008, one of the most heroic performances in White Sox history. In 2010, he set career highs in wins, innings pitched, and strikeouts, but followed that year with some injuries. In what could be considered a wise or naive move, the White Sox recognized his lower value because of the injuries and inked him to this extension. For $13 million in average annual value, this could have been a bargain, except Danks' injury wasn't a one-time thing. He only made 9 starts in 2012, and then he needed shoulder surgery, so he was out for the entire year. Once he came back, his velocity declined heavily, and he only had 1 more full season in the entirety of this contract. That was in 2014, when he was nothing more than a Chad innings eater. So much for talking about good contracts. This one is going to go in our bottom tier. How is John Danks the highest paid pitcher in White Sox history? Up next is the 5-year, $50 million extension given to Blake Snell by the Tampa Bay Rays. And I'm glad we're doing extensions in this video because I have no idea who the free agent pitcher would be for the Tampa Bay Rays. Like Zach Eflin or something? After winning the 2018 Cy Young, Blake Snell received this $50 million extension that bought out some of his arbitration years and 2 of his free agent years. Snell was absolutely dominant in the 2020 postseason for the Rays, except the only thing we really remember is him getting lifted prematurely in Game 6 in the 6th inning. That became the lasting image of Blake Snell on the Rays. While Snell's 2 seasons that followed his Cy Young were nothing compared to 2018, they were still quality starter seasons that I think the Rays were happy with. Except as soon as the money hiked up in this extension, the Rays traded him immediately, and the package they got back from the Padres wasn't exactly great, as the main pieces, Luis Patino and Francisco Mejia, never really panned out for them. And of course, Snell would go on to win yet another Cy Young in 2023 with the Padres in the final year of this contract. This contract could have been in the top 2 tiers, but I think I'm going to put it in complicated legacy because the way Snell was remembered with the Rays is not how he's going to be remembered with the Padres or the Dodgers at this point. Not as fondly. Up next is Matt Garza, who got a 4-year, $50 million deal from the Milwaukee Brewers. I hope this section ages poorly. Can you just pay Freddie Peralta, please? I'm going to have to talk about it now, though. Nothing against Matt Garza, who was a terrific Tampa Bay Ray and a solid Chicago Cub. Garza was a Chad innings eater, throwing 200 innings multiple times throughout his tenure with both those teams. And after 2013, it was the Milwaukee Brewers who became the shocking team that got him in free agency. He did have a solid first year with over 160 innings and a 3.64 ERA, but after that, he would start to struggle with injury. In 2015, he actually lost his rotation spot at the end of the year as the Brewers wanted to take a look at their younger pitchers, which strained the relationship between him and the team. In 2017, he attempted to pitch through a shoulder injury that he suffered on a PFP with first baseman Jesus Aguilar, and this only made things a lot worse. Garza finished his Brewers tenure with 93 starts, an ERA of 4.65, and negative wins above replacement. Can you guys guess where this one's going? Yeah, it's going in the bottom tier. I promise there's better examples coming, but I'm getting nauseous, man. Up next is the extension given to Tanner Bibee from the Cleveland Guardians, 5 years and $48 million. This one is a fairly recent one. Because it's fairly fairly recent, we can't really judge it accurately, but I can tell you what I know so far. Bibee finished second in Rookie of the Year voting behind Gunnar Henderson in his first year with a 2.98 ERA in 142 innings. Bibee has also posted solid postseason numbers for Cleveland the past 2 years to the tune of 20 innings and a 3.10 ERA. And this is honestly the type of extension that the Guardians have done a lot in their history. See Shane Bieber, for example. So it wouldn't surprise me if Tanner Bibee gets traded before the end of it. Very obviously, this one's going to go in too soon to tell. Speaking of too soon to tell and might get traded before the end of it, up next is Luis Severino, who got a 3-year, $67 million deal with the Oakland A's. And no, that wasn't a mistake. I will be referring to them as the Oakland A's. This is one of the few contracts that has superseded the most expensive contract I discussed in last year's video, that being Eric Chavez, because now Luis Severino is the richest athletic to ever live. After Severino had a career resurrection with the Mets in 2024, he earned this 3-year deal and was solid for parts of it. In road games, he threw 80 innings with a 3.02 ERA, but pitching to the minor league dimensions of Sutter Health Park, Sevy's numbers kind of ballooned. He had a 2-9 record at home, an ERA over 6, and allowed 10 home runs in just 82 innings. I think Severino's definitely a trade candidate. His relationship with the team is already strained according to multiple reports, and I think he would benefit from not pitching in a minor league park in half of his starts. But as it stands, this one is too soon to tell in terms of judging. Now we're going to talk about one of the biggest head scratchers on this list, that being Yu Darvish's 6-year, $108 million contract signed with the San Diego Padres. This is the third different 6-year deal of Darvish's career, first with the Rangers, then with the Cubs, now with the Padres. Darvish, of course, was traded in the middle of that second one from the Cubs to the Padres and pitched some great seasons for them. Following the 2022 season where he made 30 starts to the tune of an ERA 22% better than league average and an 8th place finish in the Cy Young voting, he was given this new extension going into his age 36 season. Darvish leaves behind a legacy of greatness. He has the most strikeouts by a Japanese-born pitcher with over 1,900, but 2024 was a sign of things to come as Darvish dealt with multiple different injuries. Now, Darvish is going to miss the entire 2026 season recovering from internal brace surgery, which is no joke. And after the 2026 season, he'll still be owed $15 million per year in 2027 and 2028, where he'll be 40 years old and 41 years old. I'm going to be a little bit fair and put this one in too soon to tell, but of the 3 guys there, I think I'm most confident in how this one's gonna go. Up next is the Texas Rangers' most expensive pitcher contract, which is of course Jacob deGrom and his 5-year, $185 million deal. We all can recognize the greatness of Jacob deGrom's peak at this point. He of course was a back-to-back Cy Young winner and at one point was on a 5-year, $137 million deal with the Mets. That of course was helped by the fact that his agent, Brodie Van Wagenen, was the general manager of the team at the time. The shit I used to have to deal with, man. In 2021, deGrom was on his way to maybe the most dominant pitching season ever before injuries derailed everything. And since then, deGrom has dealt with injuries in basically every year of his career. In 2022, he didn't pitch until August, and by the end of that year, he would opt out of his contract and enter free agency. In the first year of his Rangers deal that was signed after, he would miss most of the year with a torn UCL requiring Tommy John surgery. And just as we were getting ready to chalk this one up to being a total failure, deGrom came out with an awesome 2025 season at age 37. He made 30 starts, had an ERA 23% better than league average, and a WHIP well under 1, helping him finish top 10 in Cy Young voting, his first full season since 2019. Now it looks like everything's back on the table for deGrom in terms of his Hall of Fame candidacy and maybe finishing this contract on a high note. So as of right now, I'm going to put it in complicated legacies. I think it has the opportunity to go even higher if he can make it healthy through these next few years. Another newer entry, this is Aaron Nola's 7-year, $172 million extension with the Philadelphia Phillies, and this has Dave Dombrowski written all over it. For years, Aaron Nola was recognized as one of the most underrated pitchers in the game. It seemed like every other year he was among the top echelon of National League pitchers. Paired with Zach Wheeler, they formed one of the best starting pitching duos in all of baseball and had some postseason numbers to show for it as well. Best of all, Nola was an absolute workhorse, never pitching less than 180 innings in any year from 2021 to 2024. After a 2023 season where Nola was actually below league average, he would earn the 7-year extension, and the first year was solid in 2024, a year where he struck out just under 200 batters, but also led the National League in home runs allowed. Now in year 2 though, things are getting scary. Nola just had the worst year of his career and also the first year where he dealt with injuries as well. He had a stress fracture in his ribs and pitched to an ERA over 6 during the year, though Nola would return strong towards the very end of the season. Nola is owed just under $25 million in each of the next 5 seasons, taking him through his age 37 campaign. This one is too soon to tell for me. I'm not going to doubt Aaron Nola considering his career resume as a workhorse and a guy that has tremendous upside, but last year definitely put a scare in Phillies fans, and for good good reason. Up next is another ongoing contract, that being Pablo Lopez's 4-year, $73 million deal with the Minnesota Twins. In one of the most famous trades in recent baseball history, the Minnesota Twins traded the batting champion Luis Arias to the Miami Marlins for Pablo Lopez and immediately extended him. Also, interestingly enough, in the first game that Pablo Lopez played after being traded, he was on Team Venezuela in the 2023 World Baseball Classic with Luis Arias as his teammate. Lopez immediately blossomed as a member of the Minnesota Twins, receiving Cy Young votes for the first time in his career and making his first All-Star team. He set career best with a 3.5 wins above replacement mark and 234 strikeouts. Even better, Lopez had a pair of great starts in their postseason run, helping the Twins break their playoff curse and shutting down the Astros in Game 2 of the division series. While he's regressed a little bit and even dealt with injury last year, there's no doubt that this contract has been a resounding success for the Twins. With 2 years left at $21 million per, though, the Twins are likely going to trade the contract this offseason. So I'm going to put this a leg above Too Soon to Tell. I'm going to put it in good trivia because, to be honest, I had no idea that this was the richest contract in Minnesota's history. Before I get to the next player in today's video, though, I want to thank Shopify for sponsoring the Jolly Olive channel today. Shopify is the best place to start and grow a business, which is why we partner with them here at John Boy Media. Our company recently relaunched our entire merch site at Shopify, and the entire process has been a dream. We brought the ideas and Shopify brought the execution. So as you're shopping our new launch, check out what Shopify can do for you. Life is really a home run when Shopify is by your side. Whether you just want to test an idea out or you're serious about launching your own brand, get started today at shopify.com/jollyolive, and thank you to them for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back to today's tier list. Speaking of good trivia and Too Soon to Tell, up next is Josh Hader's 5-year, $95 million contract with the Houston Astros. That's right, there is a reliever on this list. We all know about Josh Hader's dominant era with the Milwaukee Brewers. His Padres legacy is a little bit more tainted, most notably remembered in 2023, where he refused to pitch on certain days in hopes to preserve his free agent value. Safe to say he did exactly that, signing one of the richest contracts for a reliever in MLB history. The season that earned him that contract in 2023 was one where he pitched to a 1.28 ERA, which was 233% better than league average. In his 2 years with the Astros, he's logged 62 saves, 123 innings, and a whip of 0.92. With that being said, though, the Astros are kind of entering a point of transition, so who knows how much longer Josh Hader turns out to be a Houston Astro. Unsurprisingly, as we enter only year 3 of this deal, it's going to go in Too Soon to Tell. Up next is the saddest entry on this list, that being Stephen Strasburg's 7-year, $245 million contract with the Washington Nationals. After the heroics in the 2019 postseason from both Strasburg and Anthony Rendon, the Nationals were faced with a rock and a hard place, needing to pay one of them but not being able to pay both. It turns out that either road they took would have been a bad one. The 2019 World Series MVP went 5-0 during that postseason run with 36 innings, an ERA below 2, and 47 strikeouts to just 4 walks. Without Strasburg's presence, the Nationals surely don't win that ring. Following his historic season where he logged the most innings of his career, he opted out of his 4-year, $175 million extension and inked this new contract with the team. The thing is, Strasburg's workload would result in a cruel concoction of injuries in the next few years. Nerve issues in his pitching hand, a neck strain, right shoulder inflammation, a stress fracture in his ribs, and then the death bell for pitchers everywhere, thoracic outlet syndrome, which has claimed the careers of players like Matt Harvey in the past. Before long, he retired in 2023. There was even an ugly contract dispute with the Nationals and Strasburg where they wouldn't honor his retirement announcement. That thankfully has been smoothed over, but there's no doubt that this contract was an abject disaster that set the franchise back many years. It pains me to put Stephen Strasburg in the bottom tier with all these other guys where he clearly does not belong, but that's where he's going to go. Up next is Mitch Keller's 5-year, $77 million extension with the Pittsburgh Pirates. After struggling to adjust to the major league level as a former top prospect, Keller's 2023 season was one of the better stories that came out that year. Keller struck out 200 batters, nearly threw 200 innings, and had an ERA of 4.21, which doesn't sound great, but it did result in an all-star campaign and was the best season on the Pirates that year easily. Ahead of the 2024 season, he signed a 5-year, $77 million contract. He's remained a workhorse, never really having the quality of that first season, and let's face it, he's probably going to get traded because that's what the Pirates do. We still have 3 years left on this contract, so it's kind of too soon to tell how it'll go, and I'm pretty sure he's going to end up on a different team by the end of it. Up next is another recent one, Corbin Burnes' 6-year, $210 million contract with the Arizona Diamondbacks. It was a shock to me when Corbin Burnes didn't end up returning to Baltimore after the terrific year he had there, but he wanted to go near home and Arizona was the place to be. I made a video somewhat recently detailing the history of pitcher contracts with the Arizona Diamondbacks and how basically none of them have worked worked out, and it looks like in year one, we're going to have another example. Burnes, of course, was the 2021 Cy Young with the Milwaukee Brewers and has finished top 8 or better in the subsequent 3 years that have followed, not to mention some great postseason pitching performances as well, including 8 innings and 1 earned run in a game that he lost in the wildcard series in 2023. Through 11 starts with the Diamondbacks, Burnes looked like he was going to be a Cy Young candidate with an ERA of 2.66. But then on June 1st, the bad news came. Elbow tightness forced him out of a game, and he would need Tommy John surgery, meaning he's going to miss the entirety of the 2026 campaign, which means you can basically just cross out the first 2 years of the contract. I'm really hoping that Corbin Burnes can come back strong. It's too soon to tell. I won't write him off yet, but this is a tough way to start this deal. Up next is the 12-year, $325 million contract handed out to Yoshinobu Yamamoto from the Los Angeles Dodgers. Can you really give a pitcher who's never pitched in MLB $300 million? Yes, you can, Josh Reddick. Yes, you can. Yamamoto dominated Japanese leagues for years, came over in his first year and dealt with injury and struggled only a little bit, and then in 2025 fully announced his presence as one of the best pitchers in baseball. 30 starts, a 2.49 ERA, 201 punch-outs, and a third-place Cy Young finish. But that's not what people are talking about. They're talking about the postseason for Yamamoto. A complete game in Game 2 of the NLCS, another complete game in Game 2 of the World Series, and then 8 outs of relief in Game 7 of the World Series, less than 24 hours after pitching in Game 6. Yamamoto was named World Series MVP, and rightfully so. It's one of the best postseason performances ever. I know we're only in year 2 of this contract. I'm putting it in the top tier. I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but it's hard to predict Yamamoto and the Dodgers' next decade together being anything short of a resounding success. The dude is worth every penny and probably way more. Up next is the other team in the 2025 World Series, that being the Toronto Blue Jays, who gave Jose Berrios a 7-year, $131 million extension. Berrios was a solid pitcher for the Minnesota Twins for 5 years and always felt like he had a ceiling higher than what he was actually performing to. In 2021, he was traded mid-season and the Blue Jays swiftly inked him to a 7-year deal. The thing is, his numbers with the Blue Jays have been remarkably similar to his time in Minnesota. Just under 800 innings, an ERA just over 4, and a whip of 1.2. In every year during his Blue Jays tenure, he's made at least 30 starts, so if nothing else, he's been a reliable workhorse. Berrios has the opportunity to opt out of this extension following the 2026 season, so if he pitches well and opts out, I think you can call this extension a success. This might be somewhat controversial. I'm going to put Berrios in the second tier. In terms of what pitcher contracts look like right now, I think getting Berrios on this value is solid considering he pitches a full season basically every year. And like I said before, if Berrios is a guy in 2026, then the Blue Jays should be very happy with the 5 years they got. Yeah, he never ascended to ace status, but also he's been supplemented with guys like Kevin Gausman and Robbie Ray throughout the years. And if I had to guess, I think the Blue Jays are going to sign a pitcher to a more expensive contract this offseason. Now we have Johnny Cueto's 6-year, $130 million deal with the San Francisco Giants. And it's interesting to think about this one because the 2010s were chock full of dominant Giants pitchers. Johnny Cueto's not the first one that comes to mind. After a solid decade of pitching with the Reds, Cueto was traded in 2015 and helped the Kansas City Royals win the World Series. And the first year of Cueto's new contract with the San Francisco Giants was absolute dynamite. 32 starts, a career-high 5 complete games that resulted in 220 innings pitched, an ERA 44% better than league average, and a 6th place finish in Cy Young voting. It looked like this deal was on the fast track to being an absolute bargain, but the next 3 years, Cueto would deal with injuries. He had a forearm injury and blisters in his right hand in 2017, and then a right elbow sprain and Tommy John surgery in 2018. After making 32 starts in his first year, he would make just 38 starts in his next 3 years. This one is going to go in good trivia for me. I might be underrating it a little bit considering how great his 2016 was, but honestly, this is good trivia. I would have said Mad Bum or Tim Lincecum or Matt Cain or Barry Zito way before I would have said Johnny Cueto for the Giants. Now we have Adam Wainwright's 5-year, $97.5 million extension with the St. Louis Cardinals. After missing the 2011 season with Tommy John surgery, Wainwright fully rebounded in 2013 with 6 WAR, 241 innings pitched, and a 3rd place finish in Cy Young voting. After that season is where the Cardinals gave him this extension, and he followed with another terrific year in 2014. 6 WAR, an ERA of 2.38, and another top 3 Cy Young finish. The next few years, though, Wainwright would deal with more injuries, most notably an Achilles tear in April of 2015. And while his quality of pitching definitely suffered, he was still a workhorse in the years that followed, making 33 starts in 2016 and 31 in 2019 at age 37. So I know this contract looks a lot similar to Johnny Cueto's in terms of how it went. I am going to put this one higher though. I'm going to put it in would sign them again for 2 big reasons. 1, the Cardinals kept Adam Wainwright a Cardinal for life, which I think is important here. And 2, though Waino dealt with injuries, he was still out there taking the ball every 5th day for most of this contract, unlike Cueto in those middle years. And I honestly don't think it's quite a complicated legacy either. I think Cardinals fans remember Wainwright very fondly, even though he got hurt in the middle of this extension. The finances also didn't really hamper the Cardinals from competing either. They were still a playoff team in most of these seasons. Up next is the 5-year, $70 million deal signed by Ian Kennedy with the Kansas City Royals. Did you know that Ian Kennedy is the richest pitcher in Royals history? Because I sure didn't. This contract came immediately after the Royals won the World Series, where they failed to bring back Johnny Cueto, so they settled for Ian Kennedy. Kennedy was great in his first year. He posted a 3.68 ERA in 33 starts, which was an ERA 17% better than league average. He wasn't the ace that some of the other guys were, but he was taking the ball every 5th day and fulfilling his contract. Kennedy, like many of the other pitchers on this list, would regress and struggle with injury in the next 2 years, but at one point he transitioned to the closer role in 2019 and was awesome in it. 30 saves and a 3.41 ERA for a Royals team that was kind of going nowhere. Kennedy's time with the Royals isn't so much bad as it is more unremarkable. I'll put it a step above the bottom tiers here. I'll put it in good trivia. I think for $14 million a year, this was solid, decent output. It didn't really hurt them, and it is good trivia. I had no idea before doing this video. Now we have Spencer Strider's 6-year, $75 million extension with the Atlanta Braves. Spencer Strider in 2022 was on the fast track to becoming one of the most dominant pitchers in the National League, with a second-place finish in Rookie of the Year voting in 131 innings with an ERA that was 54% better than league average. Strider actually signed this contract while he was on the IL with an oblique injury, and injuries would become the theme of the next few years. In 2023, he became the fastest pitcher to reach 100 strikeouts in a single season, doing so in just 61 innings pitched. But in 2024, just 2 starts into the year, he was removed from a game with elbow tightness, and it was revealed that he had UCL damage requiring Tommy John surgery. The version of Spencer Strider that came back this past year was healthy, but not quite the guy we saw in those earlier years. And with 3 years left at an average annual value of $21 million, this might not be the best situation, though I won't count him out yet. This one will go in too soon to tell for me. I believe in a Spencer Strider rebound. He's just never going to be the same guy he was in 2022 and 2023. Now we have Gerrit Cole's 9-year, $324 million deal with the New York Yankees, and I look upon this one pretty favorably. After his dominant 326 strikeout campaign that resulted in a runner-up Cy Young finish in 2019, Gerrit Cole inked this huge deal with the New York Yankees. And there's basically been no point in it where he hasn't lived up to the dollar amount. Cole, of course, won the 2023 American League Cy Young, leading the league in starts, ERA, innings pitched, and WHIP. In 2024, he missed some time, but then came back for the postseason and was the guy the Yankees needed during that run. Honestly, he should have got the win in both of his World Series starts, where he received a no decision. After missing all of the 2025 season with injury, it's going to be interesting to see what Gerrit Cole looks like in 2026 and beyond, but I wouldn't count anything against him. It's hard to imagine where Yankees pitching quality would have been without Gerrit Cole these past few years. He's going to go in my top tier. I think he's been worth every penny and more. And I think more teams should have been unafraid to give him that dollar amount. Now we have one of the most unbelievable entries on this list, that being Alex Cobb, who is the richest pitcher in Orioles history with a 4-year, $57 million deal. It's no secret that last year the Orioles were going to top that offer by a ton when they were trying to re-sign Corbin Burnes, but they didn't get it done, so this is what we're talking about. Cobb was solid and reliable as a Tampa Bay Ray. He threw 700 innings with a 3.5 ERA in 6 years, and then he earned this contract with the Orioles. And basically at no point during his contract tenure with the Orioles was he anywhere near that quality. He had an ERA near 5 in his first year. He made just 3 starts in 2019 with multiple IL stints. And then before the 2021 season, he was traded to the Angels, where the Orioles ate some of the money in the deal. And the worst part is that year with the Angels was the best year of the contract for him by far, throwing 93 innings with a 3.76 ERA. Basically, nothing went right in this deal with the Orioles and Alex Cobb, so it's going to go in the bottom tier, unsurprisingly. Up next is Justin Verlander's second extension with the Detroit Tigers, a 7-year, $180 million deal. Following the 2013 season, this contract made Justin Verlander the highest paid pitcher in the history of the sport to that point. And while he'd be a little bit less than Cy Young for him, the first 4 years of this contract were awesome for Justin Verlander. At age 33 in 2016, he led MLB in WAR and finished runner-up in Cy Young voting. He probably should have beat Rick Porcello that year, though. In the 5th year, though, is where the trade to the Houston Astros would finally occur, and Verlander would go on to win the World Series with them that very same year. Truly, I think the only thing preventing this contract from being in the utmost top tier is the fact that the Tigers' return package for Verlander in those 3 years remaining was awful. They got nothing out of that deal. I'm going to put this one in the second tier. It was important that Justin Verlander stayed a Tiger during his prime. It would have been awesome if the Tigers could have competed more in that window, and it would have been even more awesome if the Tigers got anything for dealing away the best pitcher in franchise history. Now we have Jered Weaver's 5-year, $85 million contract with the Los Angeles Angels. Weaver had a 3-year stretch from 2010 to 2012 where he made nearly 100 starts and had a 2.73 ERA and over 600 innings. The final year of that 3-year stretch is the first year of this contract that we'll be talking about. That first year, he made 30 starts and finished top 3 in Cy Young voting, and while the next 2 years wouldn't be as impressive, he still led the league in wins at one point and was a solid workhorse in that rotation. Weaver's decline directly coincides with the team's decline, as 2014 would be the last year that Weaver was solid at the major league level, and of course the last year that the Angels would make the playoffs. Declining velocity would spell the end of Weaver's quality at the major league level, but he still took the ball every 5th day. The Angels have signed a lot of bad contracts. I don't think this is one that they have any regrets for. I think they would totally sign Jered Weaver to the same deal again. They really haven't had an ace of his quality since. I waited until deep into this video to talk about the Mets, so not biased here. We'll be talking about Johan Santana and his 6-year, $137.5 million extension with the New York Mets. The 2-time Cy Young winner was traded to Queens ahead of the 2008 season. It was a package highlighted by Carlos Gomez and Philip Humber, which didn't end up hurting the Mets much at all, and they immediately paid Johan to remain in the blue and orange. In his first year, he was absolutely awesome. He threw a career-high 234 innings and had a career-low ERA of 2.53, resulting in a 3rd-place Cy Young finish. At the tail end of that season, with the Mets facing another collapse, Santana pitched on 3 days rest and threw a 3-hit shutout to keep their season alive, ultimately for naught. But the Mets leaning on Johan far past his limits would be a consistent theme throughout the contract. Just 3 days after that heroic performance, he would have surgery on his torn meniscus. In 2009, he made 25 starts with a 3.13 ERA, but had bone chips in his elbow, and he would miss all of 2011 with shoulder surgery. The thing that most Mets fans and baseball fans really remember is his no-hitter that he threw in 2012, which was an awesome performance, the first no-hitter in Mets history, but also one where he threw 134 pitches. He would be placed on the IL with an ankle sprain and arm fatigue, and he would never be the same after this no-hitter. So Santana had 3 terrific years with the Mets and 3 that were riddled with injury, with a no-hitter sprinkled in between. This makes him pretty hard to judge on this list, honestly. I think he fits pretty well in complicated legacies. Had the back half been as strong as the first half, I think I would have put him higher, but if you give the Mets all the knowledge of how these 6 years would go, I'm not sure that they would sign him again. It's really hard to say. The final pitcher on today's list is David Price, who signed a 7-year, $217 million contract with the Boston Red Sox. Price was never the same guy that he was with the Tampa Bay Rays, Blue Jays, and Tigers in the years that preceded this contract, but he was still a solid workhorse in 2 of the first 3 seasons here. Price only completed 180 innings pitched between 2017 and 2019 combined, and then eventually would be lumped into the infamous Mookie Betts deal in 2020. So 2 solid seasons, 2 seasons riddled with injury, and then a trade that everyone remembers as being one of the worst in history. The only thing that really saves this deal is his 2018 performance in the postseason, which likely helped Boston win the World Series altogether. It's really interesting. If you ask most Red Sox fans, they absolutely love David Price and his legacy there, even though the numbers on the page aren't that great. But judging this as an outside fan, I'm also going to put him in complicated legacies because he definitely was not worth the $30 million average annual value that he received in this deal. Not to mention the fact that the Red Sox paid down half of the money in each of the last 3 years where he was pitching for the Dodgers. And that'll do it for my list today. I think a lot of things landed where I didn't expect them to, but talking through the process kind of helped clear my mind. If you agree or disagree with me, let me know in the comment section down below, and let me know another tier list idea you have that you want to see me do. Thanks for watching this video to the end, and I'll see you guys next time.